Our next speaker needs no introduction. Actress and advocate Jessica Lange is with us this morning. Jessica Lange's illustrious career that so many of you have followed for so many years as I have includes 2 Academy Awards and 4 Golden Globes. Her latest movie, Great Gardens, is to debut in the fall. She has so many: A Streetcar Named Desire, The Postman Rings Twice, Tootsie, remember them all. She is so accomplished, such a wonderful role model for all of us. She was on CBS Sunday Morning several weeks ago, and I was transfixed because she, to me, is the epitome of what a confident, strong, good woman is, who takes her celebrity and uses it for a good cause. She has used her celebrity to advocate for issues that are very important to her. She has been a vocal critic of our president, George Bush. And is an outspoken advocate for protecting our environment, which is so important to Barack Obama. And to all of us here. And for preserving human rights. In 2003, she was recognized and became a Goodwill Ambassador to UNICEF. So let's all join together in welcoming one of the celebrated actresses and advocates for all of us, Jessica Lange.
Well, it's really my honor to be here today. It's such a moving moment to stand here and look out and see all these faces, to hear babies crying, to see grandmothers like myself, to see every age of woman here, and a few of the men that were dragged along. Anyhow, I'm following 2 very eloquent speakers, Kate speaking on behalf of women's rights, and the amazing Congresswoman speaking on race and other issues. But the thing that drew me to Barack Obama's campaign was his position on the war in Iraq. I have been an outspoken critic against the war since before the drum beats started, back in the State of the Union address in the year 2003, sitting there in my living room watching the prelude to the invasion of Iraq. I watched all the senators sitting in the chamber who responded how. Teddy Kennedy was sitting there with his head bowed, never once looked up, and I applauded him for that. Senator Clinton leapt to her feet several times to applaud Bush's policies. And right there, I thought, this is it for me with this woman. See Lincoln Chafee and Robert Byrd and certain senators sitting there who had the conviction to actually oppose what was obviously a disastrous course that this president was bent on taking us on. And you could see which senators were sitting there with some kind of political calculation going on. And those so-called good people, like Colin Powell or Tony Blair, who enabled this president to embark on this, and the senators, congresspeople who were sitting there who voted yay when the moment came, really are responsible. And they are responsible for the thousands of dead Americans, for the tens of thousands wounded Americans who have come back damaged physically, mentally, emotionally, for the hundreds of thousands dead Iraqis. Now, when I was with UNICEF working in the Congo, one statistic really struck me, and that was in World War I, the percentage of casualties, civilian casualties, was something like 16%. In modern warfare, that is now above 90%. And the greatest casualties, the greatest to suffer, are always women and children. There are millions displaced in Iraq, so I hold all of those who voted yay responsible for this disaster. Just take a moment to remind you of the kind of poisonous climate that existed here leading up to that war. And I know personally because I was attacked every which way, sideways, up and down. I was called uneducated. I was called Hollywood scum. I was called a traitor, a supporter of Saddam Hussein. I was accused of endangering our troops. My children were harassed in school. So I'd just like to remind you of what it took for somebody in political office who was planning a run for the US Senate to actually have the courage, the conviction, to stand up and publicly say, this is wrong, what we are doing is wrong, because the political consequences were enormous to anybody at that moment. And we all know who did that. Yes! Now I just want to, for a moment, just address one other thing, and that is, other than the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan, there has been 7 relentless years of war against human rights, against civil liberties, against the Constitution, environment, education, the economy, the poor, the middle class. And there has been a very stealth, insidious war on women. And that shows in the inequity of the wages, health care, the personal debt, the jobs disappearing, child care. You know, when I was making a film in Alabama a couple of years ago, I was coming home from the set late at night once and passing some strip mall. There was a huge banner up that said, now open till midnight. And I thought, well, that must be a fast food restaurant or something like that, maybe an all-night drugstore. And as we passed, to my horror, I realized it was a daycare center. And I thought about that mother who at midnight, after working, a late shift or maybe double shifts, is going there to pick up her child. Some little child who's forced to go to sleep in daycare because this woman can't make enough money to be home at night to put her child to bed. And I thought, there is something so tragically wrong with this system and what is going on here in this country.